everybody. Today is our monthly hop with the Cherry on Top design team. For the month of September, we are focusing on all of the stamps. So I have some Flame and Eucalyptus Catherine Puller inks. I have this stamp set, which is in the shop from Altenew, and I will link it down below. And I'm going to be pairing my stamps with 49th and Market's new Elena collection, which is gorgeous. So to start off with, I'm going to show you how I'm going to create a background. So what I'm going to do is I have a thick piece of white cardstock. This is actually a speckled white cardstock, which I get at the cardstock warehouse, and it's not a bright true white, but it's not a cream either. It's a little bit in the middle, but perfect to coordinate with this 49th and Market collection, and it's also perfect to coordinate with Simple Stories collections. So what I'm going to do is I want to stamp a row of flowers and leaves down the side of the page. So I'm just going to go ahead, alternate between the flowers and the leaves. I want the flowers and leaves to kind of hang off the edge. So I'm going to do the flowers with the flame color and then the leaves in the eucalyptus color. These two ink colors match this Elena collection perfectly. They're so pretty, and I really, really love how this layout turned out. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm just going to alternate between the two. I want to get good impressions, so I'm going to let the stamp rest on the paper. This allows more of the ink to kind of soak into the paper, and you get a crisper, cleaner impression if you are not in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry to stamp, especially if you are using these large stamp sets, large stamps, which are fabulous for 12 by 12 layouts, but they definitely have a good amount of surface area, and they need a nice rest on the cardstock and a nice, to be able to get a really good impression. We are not done stamping yet. So once I had my first kind of line of flowers and leaves, I'm now coming back in with the same flowers and the same leaves, and I am working my way up. And the only thing that I'm trying to do is to kind of nestle in another border of flowers and leaves to go to the top of the page. There can be some open gaps here. It's not going to all fit together perfectly, and that's okay. You're going to see why in a little bit. So I'm just starting from the bottom, working my way up, nestling the flowers and the leaves in again to make another border, taking my time, not worrying if there are gaps in between, and getting a nice border just on one side of the page today. In addition to the border, I'm also going to go ahead and stamp 3 more flowers and 2 more leaves onto another sheet of the same color cardstock. I'm going to keep the stamped images kind of towards the bottom, but these are for embellishments. I want to make sure I have a nice balance on my page. So in addition to having that border, I want to make sure that I'm pulling in more of those flowers into the overall finished layout. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to, same thing, stamp 3 of the flowers and 2 of the clusters of leaves. Hold on, we're not done yet. Okay, so now I have everything stamped, and I've let everything dry for a little bit, not terribly, terribly long. I have a water brush. It is nice and full. I'm just smushing those same ink colors down onto my Tim Holtz mixed media mat, and we are going to watercolor our flowers. We are going to watercolor them using the wet on wet method, which means I am coming in with some clear water first. I'm filling in each image with just water, nothing else. Not putting a ton of water here, just a little bit. Then I'm taking the ink and I'm kind of just like blopping it on top of the water. The ink will follow where the water is soaked into the paper, and you will get a lovely watercolor effect where you have dark places and light places, and we're just gonna let the paint do its thing. This will really give you that look of a watercolor. Couple of tips. First of all, make sure you let these stamped images dry a bit before you come in. No matter how long you let it dry, the dye ink is going to run a little bit, which is awesome. It adds to that watercolor idea, right? But if you let the dye inks kind of dry a little bit to cure just a little bit, your lines from your stamps will be a little less muddy, especially the center of those flowers. At the end of the day, these flowers are going to turn out so amazing, and I love them. But you can definitely kind of tell which of the flowers and leaves I stamped later versus first, and that kind of thing. So some of these flowers, the ink isn't as dry as some of the other ones. And so you can really tell in the middle, like you get that really deep watercolor look. And some of them, the ones that dried a little bit longer, have more kind of crisp stamped lines that you can see. Either way is fine. I used them all. They were beautiful. But just know that that is something to consider when you want to try this technique. So let me show you a couple of the flowers. Again, starting in with just clean water onto the entire flower, which kind of gets the paper ready for the ink to be able to move and flow. Use the thickest, heaviest cardstock you have for this. If you've got some hot press watercolor paper, that would be perfection. Again, I just used cardstock that I had in my stash, which it worked fine, but it was a nice heavyweight. So make sure that what you're getting is a heavyweight cardstock. If you are interested in learning tons of stamping techniques, this month added cherry on top, all of the blog posts, all of the hops, all of our Technique Tuesday videos is all about using stamps on projects, different ways to use stamps, how to use stamps. I have loads of fun techniques I'm going to be bringing to you for my Technique Tuesday and my blog post, and I know that the girls and the rest of the design team has lovely things to share with you too. So make sure you head over to the description box below, hop along, say hello, and here's what everything looks like, all watercolored. Isn't it gorgeous? Now remember how I said it's okay if we have those open spaces on our border. I'm now going to come in with spruce cardstock, or the spruce in color, sorry, not cardstock, in color, spruce. And on my stamp set, there was a sentiment that said, love you, and I'm going to be scrapbooking a family photo, and of course, I love my family, so I am 100% going to go ahead, take all those kind of open spaces, and stamp with the spruce cardstock over the leaves. I didn't go into the flowers because the flowers are flame, and I didn't want to do that. I was kind of worried a little bit that the inks wouldn't play nice with each other. But how beautiful do those watercolored elements look? And now this border is ready to go on my page. And I also have all of those fussy cut elements as well ready to go, the flowers and the leaves. So something that I never do is I never use a brand new collection and create the first layout with that collection for a video. This is the first time I have done it, and well, maybe the second time, and I was reminded of why I don't do it. So I'm going to show you how I got this layout started, but then I fluffed around with all these embellishments so much. It was crazy. There was no point in making you watch all of that. It was painful. And I wanted to make sure to keep in all of the techniques for this video while simultaneously not making it very long. So I know that on the right side of my page, I want to do like a peekaboo. So I'm going to go through all of my papers And I'm going to choose this one, which is on the bottom. Again, I had to flip through every one of them before I had figured out that I was going to use the one I initially thought I was going to use. This really is like behind the scenes. You will never see me work with a collection the first time on camera because it is such a long, drawn out process for me to figure it out. Like it's insane. So, but we did it for this one, and I completely just didn't even make you watch all of the embellishing, crazy decisions to be made. I'm just going to show you the video at the end. But I did keep this in for you to show you how I did this little peekaboo. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking a 3 or 4 inch, maybe 4. I generally either go with 3 or 4 when I do this, but because I had that border there, I wanted to have that as my peekaboo part. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move all those flowers. I'm going to add a good amount of tape here. And I go ahead and speed this part up a little bit for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it behind that cream colored paper. I want to make sure it's good and attached. And then I'm just going to go ahead and tear down a little peekaboo section so that we kind of have a little bit more of that color and things like that. And then I did use that darker teal to map my photo with. Okay, so here's my finished product. I went through these products so many times and fuffed around with them because this was the first layout I created with this collection, and I had it in my head that it had to be perfect and etc., etc. So instead of making you watch me go through that entire process, which took me 3 times as long as it usually does, I decided that I would work on this layout in tiny little spurts and finish it off and then just share it with you, since I had already recorded all of the stamping and how that all worked and all of that. And that's going to be the bulk. I kind of assumed that would be the bulk of my video, as well as to show you how I use the stamps. So I just added one little cluster up here, this one little cluster of embellishments. Then I went with kind of like a loose kind of line of butterflies that goes up here. And here are those 3 extra roses that I stamped and colored, and then the 2 extra leaves that I stamped and colored. And then my title is a rub-on, and then all these little splatters you kind of see behind the butterflies were the rub-ons. Really liked how that turned out. And then there's just a little accent. So pretty simple. In the way of paper, I just tore the edge here and then backed it in. Love how these colors matched, and I think the finished layout turned out fabulous. So make sure to hit the description box down below. Hop along with the next person in our Cherry on Top hop and get ready for all of the stamping inspiration this month. Talk to you soon. Bye.